degrees in downtown Seattle. I'm Ursula Roytain.
From Everett to Eastlake, this is KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
The Dori Monson Show on KIRO Radio. This is The Big Lead.
I'm going to take issue. Macy's for 70 years. It was the Bon Marché for like 50 of those 70.
True.
And then Macy's bought them, but it's not the same. It was the Bon, wasn't it? That's what I grew up with.
Yeah, it was the Bon. Do you still call it the Bon?
I still call it Bon Marché. Yeah.
And some people have no idea what we're even talking about.
I know. That's a real problem.
That's how old we are.
That's not how I should open the show. Welcome. We're coming to you from the Carter Subaru studio and streaming on Facebook Live. And I'm going to talk at 12:30 today. I know is in the state, and I know a lot of you can't stand Tim Eyman for the same reason, because you believe in bigger government and more money flowing from us to government control. But I don't care if you like the guy, if you're a detractor. When you hear what has transpired, the news that we have today, as you know, Tim Eyman this week got $30 car tabs, enough signatures verified, validated to qualify for the ballot. So if you're sick of paying $200, $300, $400 to the criminal enterprise that is Sound Transit, that they are illegally valuing your vehicles, they can steal money from you. If you're sick of that, you're going to get a chance later this year to vote for $30 tabs. And if you have, in my case, all three of my daughters are, in their 20s now. They own vehicles. My son-in-law has a vehicle, my wife and I. So for my extended family now, we're paying well over $1,000 to a criminal enterprise that's not going to do anything to alleviate traffic woes in this region. Nothing. And it's going to be obsolete by the time it's built out. Okay, so $30 tabs. But Bob Ferguson, the Attorney General, has been going hard after Tim Eyman for years now, because if there's anything a politician hates, if you try to take the heroin away from an addict, they will react violently. If you try to take money away from politicians, they will react violently. So Bob Ferguson has engaged in this multi-year jihad against Tim Eyman. And every time they think they have a court date scheduled, Bob Ferguson says, oh, no, I'm going to add this, I'm going to add that. And they keep extending it out, and all of a sudden, Tim Eyman's bankrupt. And they go after his wife personally, and it takes a toll. And as Tim very emotionally told us, then their marriage is broken up. That's not enough for Bob Ferguson, apparently. Tim Eyman's got a really brilliant attorney who has crafted a way to put Bob Ferguson, the state attorney general, on the stand, because Eyman is saying that government engaging in a vendetta merely because I'm in, smaller government anti-tax activist, that we shouldn't tolerate that. That's what communist countries do against people that don't fall in lockstep. Bob Ferguson, the person who's suing Tim Eyman, made a motion to get Tim Eyman's attorney dismissed, saying he's incompetent. And I read this attorney's brief. He sounds like a brilliant guy. What was Bob Ferguson's argument? That the attorney is incompetent? That he's a single sole proprietor law firm. And Bob Ferguson says, you don't have the manpower or the man hours to handle everything that we're going to throw at Eyman in this lawsuit. At least that's how Eyman is explaining it. Maybe Ferguson would have a different side on this, but he stopped talking to me when I exposed how he was violating the state constitution, in my view, and going after that florist in the Tri-Cities. We're going to talk to Eyman. And again, whether you are a supporter or a detractor or hater, if you're okay with the state of Washington, with the government, not just prosecuting, but persecuting somebody. Bankruptcy wasn't enough. Divorce wasn't enough. Now we're going to tell any attorney that Eyman tries to hire that we'll bury you with paperwork, and tell the one guy who was willing to defend Eyman, yeah, he's incompetent because he's too small a mom-and-pop operation to handle big boys like us in the AG's office. It is an incredible story of what sounds to me, and I would certainly welcome Bob Ferguson to come on and give his side of things, but it sounds to me like just a rogue government out of control in our state. And it doesn't surprise me at all. I think that Bob Ferguson's the most dangerous politician that I've seen in my lifetime, and I've told you that many times. And I also understand that me saying that on the most powerful radio station in the state, that I'm sure he would love to devise a way to get me off the air. But I'll continue to speak truth on this. So we're going to talk to Eyman at 12:30. It's an amazing story you got to hear. With that as mere prelude, let's get to the big lead.
The big lead. Top story.
The Seattle Times has a very in-depth story today that is really troubling to me. Not the story itself. It's a very well-reported, well-researched, well-documented story. But it's the story of a 43-year-old woman in Des Moines. She's a businesswoman. And she says that a teacher at her high school 30 years ago sexually harassed her. By her account, the sexual harassment was not physical, but she says he made repeated comments about her legs, romantic notes, a Valentine slipped into her locker, and an invitation to meet him in a motel during a debate tournament. He says he would also come to her soccer and softball practices, and said she looked fantastic in the tight pants. Now, this is what she is claiming. I do not know if it's true or not. But here's what I know. The teacher that she's making these accusations against, he's 80 years old, has long been retired, and now he is going to have to defend himself, even though he's not personally named in the lawsuit. But he's going to have to defend himself against 30-year-old accusations. The reason I have such a problem with this, she gives her name, so at least both names are out there. She's Rebecca Bowman, the 43-year-old woman. And they named the guy in the Seattle Times, and so I guess I can and will as well. Steve Eskame. And the Times talked to a bunch of students that Steve Eskame had down there in the Tukwila School District. And some of them said he was the most inspiring teacher they ever had. Some of his former students said that he had a youthful energy, high expectations, a passion for making sure kids could diagram a sentence. Some of the other kids, or the former students at Foster High School, said that he was Amber Parvainen, who had this guy as a teacher in 1991. She called him, he was her volleyball coach, rather. And she called him the most amazing person I've ever met in my entire life. So there are a lot of former students who say this guy was just a great, inspiring teacher. But now you have this lawsuit, and again, she's not naming the teacher in the lawsuit, but the Tukwila School District. And Rebecca Bowman says that he would make inappropriate comments to her and one time kissed her on the cheek. And then she still has some old notes that she says came from him. One of the things that's kind of disturbing is she says that he made an inscription in her notebook using the names Romeo and Juliet. But the woman says the teacher changed his handwriting to leave that inscription in her yearbook. So did he really write it in a different handwriting, or did somebody else write that? I don't know the answer to this. She says that he would say things that were inappropriate. Oh, I love the legs on that girl at a tennis tournament. He did get a couple letters of discipline about saying things that he shouldn't have said. And there's no way to defend that from a teacher. You always draw that line. The woman, she has a red heart made of construction paper, and it had the words, Rebecca, I love you, in cutout letters. It's not signed. So do we know that this teacher wrote it? She claims he did. She has a note written on Aloha Motel stationery that she said she got during a debate competition in Bellingham. It was addressed to QW and signed OM. And she says that his pet name for her was Quintessential Woman, and his nickname for himself was Old Man. Meet me in the penthouse. Good luck tonight, the note read. Well, this motel didn't have a penthouse, and she says she ignored the request. Now, you can also interpret that as, do your best, get to the top in this debate. I mean, I don't know. It was 30 years ago. She said that her yearbook was signed in code, numbers written on top of certain letters. Writing the letters in numerical order, they spell QWILVEYOUOM, which she says is Quintessential Woman, I love you, Old Man. So on and on it goes. The Seattle Times called this teacher, who's now 80 years old, and he answered the phone. And they said, hey, this former student is making allegations that you harassed her. And the teacher said, oh, well, I probably did. But he said, I used to tease everybody, and I wouldn't interpret such behavior as sexual harassment. And then he told the Times reporter that he would talk more in person, but then he called back and said, after talking to a lawyer, I'm not going to talk to you anymore. Now, here's what's interesting. The 80-year-old retired teacher is not named in the lawsuit. The Tukwila School District is. And this woman says that she would like, the Times had some documents that indicated that she is seeking at least $5 million in this lawsuit. In that brief phone conversation, the Times asked the retired teacher that they said, one girl had a letter she got at debate camp that said, the teacher said, not romantic. Oh, I guess so. It might be the poet in me. Still fantasizing over the kiss, begins the letter to the Rebecca Bowman, the accuser. Throw the letter away, the writer said. And she said that's one that she got from the former teacher. So she's going after the taxpayers, you and me, for $5 million, according to the Times. The teacher is not a defendant. And the woman says that, again, it was not physical except for one kiss on the cheek, but it was repeated. She says that because of all of that, that she, through her life, has been felt ashamed, dirty, and afraid. Up until ninth grade year, school had been her favorite place to be. At Foster High School, it quickly became her least favorite place. She says even today she feels uncomfortable if people outside of her immediate family sit too close to her, and she's long had a recurring nightmare of being chased. I tell you this story because I believe that there should always be just such a wall between teachers and coaches and students for any kind of stuff like she's alleging. And so if he did that stuff, does it cross the line? Yeah. Is it a $5 million injury that the taxpayers should have to pick up? Not anything that I just heard. Not anything that I just reported that the Times had. For the woman, she says that when she saw Bill Cosby being led away in handcuffs in September, it empowered her to finally speak out and file this $5 million claim against Foster High School and the Tukwila School District. So if all of this happened to her, it sounds very unfortunate. But, man, there are a lot of girls and women who have suffered far worse, far more physical, invasive harassment. And that's, again, in no way defending a teacher or coach who crosses that line, because there is no defense for that. But for a guy who a lot of people said was the greatest, most inspiring teacher, coach, he was passionate about teaching kids how to diagram sentences. He's 80 years old, he's retired, and now he's lead story at the Seattle Times. And some of the stuff, some of those notes, if they came from him, yeah, it's crappy stuff. I'm trying to figure out how the taxpayers should be on the hook for this. I'm trying to figure out how somebody could believe that's a $5 million tort claim 30 years later. I don't know how an 80-year-old man defends himself against accusations like this 30 years later. I'd love to know what you think about all of this. So drop me a text. I'm going to go through those on the Online Trading Academy text line, 98973. That's 98973. 30-year-old accusation. Does it sound like a $5 million claim to you? Is it fair to put an 80-year-old guy through this when he has no way to defend himself against what somebody says he did 30 years ago? But equally, it's not fair if what she reports is true. It's not fair that she had to deal with that 30 years ago. Whose side are you on? 98973, you can text me. That is your big lead.
The Big Lead on KIRO Radio.
Whew, we are just scratching the surface today. We got a lot more to get to, including what the state of Washington is doing to somebody who's trying to cut off their money supply. I think even those of you who are detractors of my next guest might think that this is going way too far. Is it a rogue government state out of control? Next on the Dori Monson Show.
This hour of the Dori Monson Show is brought to you by Insulation Northwest.
I believe it is vitally important that the special counsel be allowed to complete his investigation.
William Barr faces confirmation.
Former U.S. Attorney General and President Trump's pick to be the next Attorney General.
I have known Bob Mueller for 30 years. I don't believe Mr. Mueller would be involved in a witch hunt.
Local voices on national stories.
He has a sense of a strong executive power, right? And that's what makes people a little leery.
KIRO Radio 97.3 FM. News and talk, powered by the Pacific Northwest.
16 days into the new year, and if losing weight was one of your goals this new year, and maybe you stayed on track for a few days, maybe you never even got into the train station. Whatever your challenge is, get a hold of 3010 Weight Loss for Life, because if you're battling weight gain, obesity, bad habits, 3010 will help you lose the weight, gain more life to your days, and maybe more days to your life. Who knows? You know, obesity is a huge health problem. With 3010, they give you coaching, meal planning, weekly check-ins, and guidance to truly change your lifestyle. I went there, lost 25 pounds 5 years ago. I know so many people. In fact, I talked to a friend yesterday when I was driving home. who lost 38 pounds and is such a believer in 3010. So give him a call. Locations all around the Puget Sound area, 855-843-3010. That's 855-843-3010, or go to 3010weightlossforlife.com.
If you're even considering LASIK this year, put January 23rd on your calendar right now, because Dr. King will be hosting a free Lunch and Learn live webinar. Dr. King will teach you everything you need to know about LASIK, and everyone who watches will get $1,000 off the procedure. Dr. King's the most trusted and experienced surgeon in the Northwest, so register now for King LASIK's live webinar with Dr. King, January 23rd at noon. You'll save $1,000 just for watching. Register now at kinglasik.com.
Volatile markets are never fun, but it provides the opportunity to see exactly how much risk you're exposed to. Hey, it's Zach Abraham, Chief Investment Officer at Bulwark Capital and host of Know Your Risk Radio. So what do? Look, safety doesn't have to mean lower returns. By using our bond replacement strategy, our clients have actually increased their returns while being insured against loss, and all the while lowering their fees. Call now and get your free copy of our brand new booklet, Common Sense Investing, 866-779-RISK. Again, 866-779-RISK. Or go to knowyourriskradio.com.
And I got to tell you, you have to read Zach's brand new version of Common Sense Investing. You'll learn how to protect your retirement against loss, but still participate in market gains. Call now, get your free copy, 866-779-RISK. That's 866-779-RISK. Or go to knowyourriskradio.com. Bulwark Capital Management's a DBA of Clear Creek Financial Management, a registered investment advisor.
Stop crime before it happens to you. Don't trust your security and valuables to a so-called security system in a box, ordered sight unseen, with grainy video, constant signal timeouts, and no customer service. I'm Jim Futa, Director of Law Enforcement Services for Crime Stoppers of Puget Sound. With over 35 plus years in law enforcement, I've seen thousands of good people in their homes or business who were burglarized, robbed, assaulted, or worse. I recommend the security experts at 25/7 Protection in Tukwila. 10,000 square feet of cutting-edge security solutions. Be instantly alerted on your mobile device when someone is outside your home or business. Automatically, pulsing lights flash. Using the mobile PA system or loud siren, stop them instantly before they get inside. 25/7 Protection security cameras start at $29. Driveway alerts, $39.
Visit 25/7 Protection Superstore in Tukwila for once-a-year store-wide home show sale prices on home and business security solutions. 0% financing, lowest prices of the year.
I've told you how my wife and I last year got a long-term care plan with Brian Ott 525 Advisors, and we learned that there are all kinds of different plans for all kinds of different people. And he helped us find the one that was right for us, our situation. If you have near to or over $1 million in assets, there are all these new changes. It's called the Pension Protection Act. And if you thought, well, if we get into long-term care, we'll just fund it ourselves. We got enough money. Well, that might be a really bad decision from a tax perspective. Tell you what, Brian's got an asset-based class coming up January 28th. That's a Monday. January 28th in Bellevue. It's aimed at people, couples who have accumulated close to or more than $1 million in assets, and you might be considering self-funding your long-term care costs. Learn why that is not the best idea. Seating will be limited for this special class.